Hey, did you know there is a simple psychoacoustic trick that builds massive tension and keeps your audience hooked to the screen? And it's all about the bass. Today, I'm giving you insights on how we as film composers use tricks in the low end to trigger massive emotions so you can do it as well. I'm breaking it down into 4 easy to understand techniques using film scenes I actually scored. Let's dive in. Technique number 1, the rug pull, or what I call it, the trapdoor effect. The easiest way to disorient someone is to make them lean on something heavy and then just kick it away. Listen to this. This low frequency tells your brain it might be suspenseful, but you're still standing on solid ground. But what happens when I do this? This created tension, right? But why? So when you divide the frequency spectrum into zones, you have basically the lows, the mid-lows, the mid-highs, and the highs. Think of it as your lows as your root note, your bass. This is the ground you musically stand on. When you pull away this ground abruptly, you kind of fall into the unknown. Metaphorically speaking, this is the trapdoor you open and you fall into. To better understand this effect, I did exactly the same technique on the movie Split Second. It's very subtle, but it helps the story in the scene. There is a scene where refugees are on a boat. The engine is running heavy, low frequencies. It has tension there, but still you go with the flow. But then suddenly, the engine dies, they are stranded in the middle of the ocean. Instead of writing dramatic music here and getting louder saying, oh my god, the engine died, I just radically cut the bass, boom, gone. It instantly creates a feeling of utter helplessness. Check this out. You've also felt the same technique in war movies, probably too. An explosion hits, the massive bass of the battlefield vanishes, and all you hear is this tiny tinnitus ringing, high-pitched frequency, no bass. The lack of the root note, the bass, this creates tension, this pulls away the floor. Which brings us to technique number 2, the trauma vacuum. When the bass is gone, what's left? Let's do a blind test. This is from the Grammy-nominated documentary Babo, die Haftbefehl-Story, where I did the film music. The character in this scene wakes up in the hospital and doesn't know if he's dead or alive. I only played these lonely notes. No bass, no foundation. Without a root note to anchor them, these notes just float in an empty void. There is no ground you can stand on, so you're floating as well. This is how you score pure trauma, isolation, loneliness. Alright, now let's distort reality. Technique number 3, sonic vertigo. What if your character is completely losing their mind? I used this hack on a movie called A Better World for ZDF TV Germany. The protagonist starts doubting her own sanity. To make the audience physically feel her mind getting crazy, I used a pitch drift. So instead of removing the ground you stand on, I just shifted the ground so you slide down very slow. But why does it make us feel upside down? It's basically biology. For example, the Doppler effect. In real world, a dropping pitch always means loss of energy. For example, an ambulance passing by, or an arrow flying over your head. But also in general, a motor dying. Or when you stop your vacuum cleaner. So when you slowly pitch down music or sound design, or both, you're signaling your reptile brain, warning, loss of energy might be dangerous. Real quick before we get to the next technique, as a little bonus, I've summarized all these tricks and techniques into a little free PDF for you. It gives you a quick overview and even includes the exact wording you need to brief your composer or to prompt an AI. Plus, you don't need any musical background to use it. You'll get practical step-by-step instructions to apply these tricks in your edit. The download link is right down in the description. Alright, let's move on to the next one. Technique number 4, the harmonic fog. This is where we hide the ground completely. Our brains are like problem-solving machines. When we hear a chord, we instinctively want to find the root note. But when you stack complex chords on top of each other, you force your brain into a state of constant searching. John Williams does this all the time for his magic and mystery. Think of those shimmering, floating chords in Harry Potter or E.T. There is zero gravity. I recreated such a chord cluster John Williams often uses in his music, also called polytonality in music terms. The first chord is very clear, easy to understand. The second chord, same. You guess the root note. But check this out, when I stack these two chords on top of each other, which are in a completely different key and also minor and major mixed together, we start to float in between two worlds. There is no root note anymore. We are flying in between the unknown. I used a similar trick again on Babu Haftbefehl's story, but a lot darker. Same concept like John Williams, but very dissonant. The main chords and the bass are literally fighting against each other in completely different keys. It strips away orientation and makes you feel the same pain and isolation he has in the scene while he has an overdose. To go one step further, when you don't use chords but instead random melodies and chord clusters, you end up in pure thriller vibes. It's the same concept. There is no root note, the brain cannot solve the problem, it cannot understand what it is hearing, so it panics. And here at the end is a little fun fact for you to wrap your head around. Every EDM DJ in the world uses the same concept to get the people on fire on the dance floor. Think of a massive club track. I used this example for the movie The Night Between Us, also ZDF TV Germany, which is basically a club track. The riser builds up, the bass disappears slowly, the pitch gets higher and higher, everybody is floating, everybody waits in tension, and then the drop. Boom. The bass hits, the root note slams back down, and gravity returns to the dance floor. So film music isn't just art, it's a psychological tool to provoke emotions. So if you want to learn more about controlling your storytelling using music and sound, just step into the lab. Link is in description. Drop a like, stay hungry, and see you in the next one.